What I do know is that we are bombarded every day with images of perfection or fake perfection, because if it's not perfect, there's always an app you can get to fix that, you know?
What I do is about more than just makeup and clothing. I help girls become better versions of themselves.
Why do I have to wear the crown right now?
To remind you who you're gonna be when you wake up tomorrow. Amen.
Taking on a role like this, I'm curious to know, like, how did you prepare, not necessarily for the role itself, but how to talk about this role and the world that it inhabits, because it's a show that's happening at a very specific time for women. So how did you prepare yourself to just talk about this role?
For me, it was finding the reality in a world that, for me, I don't know anything about, you know, that whole beauty pageant world. And so, okay, so where does this show fit into this world right now? And I think it's the unveiling of the impossible act of trying for perfection, you know, but both men and women. I don't think this is a show that's solely about for women and women's issues. Like you said, we touch on some serious issues in this show, but it is a black comedy. We don't point fun at them, and we certainly don't surf over them, but the show is not about them. But it deals with very, very current questions and tries to understand that through the facade of someone who has it all pulled together, who has that desire for perfection, whatever that is that we are all human, and there's vulnerabilities and there's fractures and there's cracks in the surface, and we delve into that, and the characters that Megan Oppenheimer wrote are very well fleshed out, you know. On out of the gate, you think that Vicki Ellis is this bitch.
You can say it.
And she's not that,
right.
You know. She's very complex. It's a character that, through her fear and pain and anger and disappointment of probably not becoming what she wanted to become, it's a defense mechanism. And I find that with people who have an issue with, whether it be anger issues or, you know, social issues, is that a lot of it comes from fear.
Exactly.
It comes from insecurity, it comes from pain. Right. So all these issues, it was just something I couldn't wait to get my hands on, you know. And we're not defending the pageant world like, oh, that's the world that created body image issues. It's not. The pageant world has been going since the 1920s, you know. We live today in a world that is bombarding us with that.
Right, and I think, and that's actually what I wanted to ask you next, because I know that you weren't necessarily a pageant queen, but you were a dancer for years, and that industry still demands that same level of perfection. So what from your past did you pull in to give this role some authenticity?
Absolutely right. My dancing years of competitive dance, being a dancer, being on stage, being in the chorus, you know, it's a very competitive world. It's a hard world. If you spend so many hours in front of a mirror, you're gonna find something wrong with you. You know, whatever it is, you'll find it. But what I connected to, even though I was never a beauty pageant in the pageant world, in Britain where I came from, it wasn't as a big a thing as it is in America. Oh. I mean, it is now. They still have it. They have it, but it wasn't like a state by state, Miss Beauty this, Miss this, you know, Miss US, you know, Miss whatever. It wasn't. But what I do connect to is that thought of bettering oneself, of me coming from a small town in Wales. What can I do to get that next step, to fulfill my dreams, you know? And the drive that one has as a dancer, you know, and the commitment, and some of the things I sacrificed as a very young age because of my desire to do something that I love so much, and to get a break into a world that I wanted so much to be part of. I totally relate to those women who have that in this pageant world, and they do. That is the soul. When I was researching researching the world of the show, I wanted because I was on Facebook Watch, which is on an international platform, I wanted to see or see how this world existed in different countries around the world. And if it was just an American thing, and it's not.
Right.
Huge in South America, huge in Asia. The Indian I found this Indian documentary. First of all, it was one of the best made documentaries I've ever seen.
Really?
It was really amazing. And all across the world, in these beauty pageants, grown up. I'm not talking about the little kids, which I just think is totally weird. I mean, that's just my personal thing. I'm talking about women making their choice to do this and to better themselves. The underlying score for all these women was to better themselves, to maybe get a step up into a career or get a step into an education that they would not necessarily have.
Right.
And that was the underlying, and that was international, from Tulsa to Delhi.
Absolutely.
That's to Rio it was just across the board.
Right.
That was what their drive was. And I think for people who poo-poo the whole pageant world and go, do women really need to be doing this right now? Is this we call empowerment to women? That's empowerment to women. A woman who takes her own future into her own hands, who goes, you know what? Yeah, I'll do this, and it will, first of all, get me on the stage, get me speaking in public, get me out there, maybe get me a job at a TV satellite, anchor one day in my life,
Absolutely.
And that, I think, is admirable, and I think that's what is empowering to the show, as well as all those different issues that are underlyingly really quite poignant and sad about the whole thing.
Loved your time in Feud.
Thank you.
Such a great show. And so when you signed on for Queen America, I mean, it still builds as a TV show, but it's on a social platform. It's on Facebook Watch. So did that affect what was your thought process going into this project, knowing that you were about to do a project in an unfamiliar space, really, for you?
Totally unfamiliar space. The process of making the show, exactly the same.
Yeah.
I mean, different because I was in nearly every scene. In Feud, I popped in.
Sure.
I did a Cocaine Godmother, which was pretty much me, but it was a film. But it was the process of shooting it was exactly the same. The whole rollout of it is a completely different world, you know.
And the fact that it's on Facebook and people are encouraged to comment and things like
that's different. I like that. You see, it's the content, it's the conversation, it's the community. That I think is really interesting because you don't get that on regular platforms.
Absolutely. And you have definitely worked with some of the most well-known directors and showrunners and even up-and-comers like Megan Oppenheimer. So what, to you, from an actor standpoint, what are you looking for in a storyteller? Like when you sign on for something, like what are you looking for in that director, that showrunner to say, yes, I want to work with you? I
think it's, first of all, it's the world of collaboration. I'm a huge collaborative force when I'm on set. Everyone is there to do their job, and we all have to work together to make what will be our baby out into the world. So I think the first thing is material, of course. If you respond to the material, and I love the material, and I love the character. It was looking at Megan, and it was looking at Zeta-Jones, and it was looking at the producers, and it was looking at the world in which we could create for a few months. And when, not all the boxes you can tick, but when a lot of those boxes have been ticked off, that's when I know that I can collaborate. I can bring in, it was different because it's like, when you've been in the business so long and you've done a lot of work, it's like, you kind of want to share that, you just don't want to be an actor for hire and go, okay, you want me to look at a little puppet, do this and that. And so for me, the whole going to work every day is obviously we're under time constraints, but it's that working with the camera guy. What can I do to help you, Harry? What about you over there? Okay, I don't think we should be shooting it. I think we should be going that way first. Oh, really? No egos, no egos around, because we're all here to do one job, and that's to make the best piece of work we can.
Absolutely.
And that's what I look for in everything. Yeah. Everything I do is like with Ryan Murphy. I wanted to play in his gang.
Yeah.
I wanted to be his friend.
Right.
And he asked me to play Olivia de Havilland. I said, yeah, when do I start? I had to find the through thread of where you see the cracks. We shot this as a 5-hour movie, basically. We didn't do episodic TV making, you know? Like, oh, episode 1's wrapped, honey, yay! No, this is a 5-hour film. But the pleasure of that, and the beauty of the television and to have that time, is that you can really spend the time to find out those moments, I always call it my acting graph, you know? I was never good at math, but I'm really good at acting graphs. Because plotting, you know, and just finding the places, which I think I do in the first episode, is like, okay, this woman isn't what you really think she is. There's a lot going on here. This is not, you know, we want to love to hate her and hate to love her. You know, I wanted people to, by the end of it, be really rooting for Vicky.
For you, what sparked your interest to sign up for this, and why do you think these stories are so important to tell, and why do they keep popping up the way they do?
Yeah, these stories. This is not a new story about, you know, taking a young girl and making her into a star. It happened to me.
Yeah.
I was the second understudy in 42nd Street. The lead role of Peggy Sawyer, she was hurt a knee. The first understudy was on vacation, and I was thrown on. And David Merrick, who was the biggest producer on Broadway at the time, the owner of the show, happened to be in London, checking out his shows, was in the audience and cast me, and I played it for 2 years, and I became a star.
There you go.
So that story, that is the story of 42nd Street, of little Peggy Sawyer becoming the star, happened to me, and is a story that Judy Garland's played. You know, it's a story that it never gets old, because we inherently love those feel good factor of it could happen to me. Yeah. And so that's a thread that I think is just, you know, which is one of the beauties of this show, because that feel good, it could happen to me. I could be that girl and would be taken to a different place. And then we have this underlying, you know, deep issues that we address, and the reality of whether, you know, what is perfection anyway, but what is a drive, and what is a motivation, and what is a real, like, a desire to do better for yourself. That's something that I'm very aware of, because that's where I came from. I'd be still in Wales. What the hell I'd be doing? I don't know. I don't think I know. I'd probably have a dance school. Or I'd be doing something, dancing or singing or theater school, or I'd be doing something in this world, but certainly not the capacity that, you know, my dreams came true. For real, they came true. And so I think that's what I gravitated toward this story, was that, yeah, it's deep, it's dark, it's funny, it's sad, it's all those different things, but there's a real feel-good aspect to the whole show.